Welcome to Springboro 45066, the TV news magazine of Springboro, Ohio. In part one of our fall edition, we talked to Fire Chief Steve Agenbroad about the many essential services that Clearcreek Fire District offers our community and hear about all our new programs coming up in the year ahead. At the schools, we talked to two seniors about a special program where seniors were able to give their parking spaces a personal touch. On Meet Your Neighbor, we talked to local photographer and Springboro resident Jaclyn Cotton. And it's all happening right now on Springboro 45066, Part 1. Hello, we are so glad to see you. This is our first 45066 show that we've been able to have since the pandemic hit. Anyway, Carrie, I'm so glad you're with us. We're at Logan's Bark Park, one of the newest things in town, celebrating the life of a young man who tragically lost his life in the Oregon District. Well, isn't this unbelievable?
It's a beautiful facility, and it's just been so neat getting to be out here today and interact with the community members that are here. We've seen some gorgeous dogs. It's just, such a cool vibe. Everybody's happy, and you know, what a nice kind of memorial to Logan Turner.
And it all started with a school teacher and her kids sending me a letter, and then we just ran with it. Here it is. So anyway, you take a tragedy, so to speak, into a blessing. So that's where we're at. Anyway, we got a nice show for you. Carrie?
It's great to be back.
Oh yeah, it is. We missed you. We really did.
We did. We definitely did. Well, Mayor, you know, obviously the presidential election that's coming up in November is not the only important thing on the ballot locally. Recently, I had a chance to chat with our fire chief, Steve Agenbroad, regarding a fire levy that is going to be on our ballot. And he has some important things that really everyone in our community, I think, you know, needs to know about. Shall we go take a look at that?
Let's do it.
We are at fire headquarters on South Main Street, welcoming Chief Steve Agenbroad. Thank you for joining us today. What is new with the Clearcreek Fire District?
So there's a lot of new stuff.
Uh-huh.
Part of operating an emergency services department in a growing community is you're just constantly busy. You know, with growth comes growing pains. So for the last 20 plus years, whenever you think, oh, things are going to slow down next year, they just never do. So there's always stuff new. You know, we're always growing and trying to provide the best services we can to the community.
Well, and you always do a great job for us. And unfortunately, most of us only really encounter you and your wonderful team on our worst days.
That's correct, yeah. Our routine days is most people's worst. And we always try to remember that when, while we do this all the time, people typically call 911 once, maybe twice in their life, usually. So it's typically their worst day. So, you know, we always show up and try to provide not only the great technical service of providing good emergency medical care or, you know, putting the fire out,
right,
but also doing it with compassion and letting people know that we truly do care about the community and the people that live here.
Well, I can speak from experience. I know that you and your team definitely care, and you know that's evident every single day. Now, I understand that our fire and paramedics and whatnot, that you guys need a little bit of help.
We do, yes. So, you know, you can't provide a service without revenue. And we're funded exactly the same way that schools are. You know, we're a special district, so we predominantly get our funding from property taxes.
Okay.
We do bill for emergency medical calls, but that only brings in around 10% of our revenue. So the lion's share of our revenue that comes in is through property taxes. So you put a property tax levy on the ballot, it gets certified, and then you bring in a certain amount of money every year, and that really doesn't go up. It stays relatively stagnant, but unfortunately there's always inflation, and over time, you know, costs do rise. And so if you think, you know, what was gas 20 years ago versus what it is today, it's just more expensive. Same with salaries and healthcare and all of those kinds of things.
Sure, and our world is facing new challenges.
It is.
I'm sure the costs are going up. So we are going to be seeing a levy on the ballot this fall. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah. This November, we're going to be placing a 3.75 mil levy. It's a continuous levy.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about the levy and what it entails.
So the last time we passed the levy was in May of 2001.
Okay.
So it'll be come this election, will be 19 years and 6 months, so almost 20 years.
It's a long time since you've had a new batch of funding.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's been nearly 20 years since we've had a levy. So that levy was supposed to last 10 years when we passed it. That was what we put out. We promised that this levy will for sure provide funding for 10 years. So we've almost doubled that. So we were able to acquire over $3.3 million in grants over the last 20 years. So that was able to maximize our local taxpayer dollars. And another thing to think about with the levy is with this being a new continuous levy, one of the questions that I get from people in the community is, why don't you renew one of the levies? Like the levy that's 20 years old, just renew that.
Sure.
And the thing about it is we're currently operating on 3 levies that are quite old. And when those were passed, the way levies were structured back then was 12.5% of the funds came from the state of Ohio.
Okay.
So those 3 levies are still bringing funds in from the state. It was essentially an agreement between local government and the state of Ohio that, this is how this is going to work and we'll provide that. So fast forward to today, that no longer exists. So if we would renew one of those levies or all 3 of the levies to get us the funds that we would need, we would lose that 12.5% revenue, which is about $700,000, a little bit over that.
That's a lot of money.
It is. So instead of throwing that extra $700,000 on the burden of the local taxpayer, we're going to continue to maximize that leverage from the state.
Sure.
And then that's the reason why we're doing a new continuous levy.
Fantastic, fantastic. So how long do you expect this to last?
So this one will last at least 15 years.
Okay.
And like I said, the last one was supposed to go 10. We promised that, and we took it 20. So this one, we promise it will go at least 15.
Okay.
Hopefully longer. So, we understand that when we go to the taxpayers and ask for additional revenue and to increase taxes, that's a big responsibility, and we take our fiduciary responsibility very seriously. Sure. So with that said, the way we're kind of thinking is, to operate a world-class fire department, to do so with only needing 2 levies in a 35-year period of time is really fiscally responsible. So
I would agree. It sounds incredibly fiscal. How much will the levy cost?
So if you look at the auditor's website, it said don't look at like the realtor's value or what you would sell your home.
The market value doesn't matter.
Thank you. The market value. Yes. So if you get on the county auditor's website and see the true value of your
the assessed value
listed on the website, it will be $131.25 per $100,000 valuation.
Okay.
Which is $10.94 per month.
Okay.
Per 100,000 evaluation.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah, about $11 a month per $100,000.
What all will this levy accomplish for our community?
So we have a number of things. First and foremost, I mentioned we provide a world-class service. So
that you do.
We staff 3 stations covering 47 square miles currently.
Right.
So we're going to continue to provide that same great level of service. So that's first and foremost. We do have a number of pieces of apparatus that are in need of replacement.
Okay.
So those are quite large capital expenditures.
Sure.
So we're going to be replacing those. We also have some facility needs. Our 2 outlining stations, a little bit cheaper, if you will, and it's kind of where we're needing to sort of pay the piper now, if you will. We actually literally, they're metal pole barns, and they're leaking when it rains.
Oh, no.
So we use sandbags and Flex Seal to keep the rain from coming into the stations currently.
Sure.
And if we don't find a more permanent solution, that's just going to lead to more problems with mold and things along those lines. So we're going to be doing some facility upgrades. That's a big part. We also are going to staff a 4th fire station.
Oh, wow. So we're growing.
We are growing quite a bit.
We need to grow with our community.
We do, and currently our response model, like I stated, we're 7 square miles, and we have 3 stations kind of in a triangle.
Right.
So geographically, the way we're located is very good, and we look at a couple things when we look at facility needs.
Okay.
So we look at response time.
Sure.
Because that's very important, and we do try to get to every emergency, or 90% of our emergencies in 4 minutes or less. That's really our goal.
That's impressive.
And that's both fire and emergency medical,
Okay.
because the American Heart Association says once you don't have oxygen to the brain for more than 4 minutes, there's really not much that they can do. Even if we get your heart beating again.
Yeah, the damage is done.
Exactly, yes. And then also with all of the new materials that are being put in home, back in the day when our parents bought furniture, everything was cotton and wood and natural fiber. Well, things today are all made of plastics, and even the stuffing in couches is plastic. So it burns truly like gasoline. Yeah. So when it catches fire, it just really, really gets going. And basically when a room becomes fully involved, we call that flashover.
Sure.
And that happens around 4 minutes or so. So we try to get there pre-flashover before the fire really grows out of control. So response time and geographical area, those are what we look at. So we worked with the Ohio Fire Chiefs Association about 3 years ago, and we did a strategic plan. Part of that plan was to do a facility needs assessment to see what we need to do. Looked at all of our run data, and when you look in the northwest part of the city, where like Dorothy Lane Market and that kind of stuff is up there, we have a lot of runs up there. Well, we have a station here on South Main Street by Heatherwood, and then we have a station on Lido 5 Points by the water tower, which makes that triangle good, but it really isn't. That northwest portion is an offshoot of that. So if you look at the data and you look at how many runs we have up there, and then we worked with the Warren County GIS department, and they broke down how fast we can get to certain areas based on road travel and speed limits on each road, that we just can't get to that area with our current stations where they are for the amount of call we have. So the only way to get there in the manner that you need is to put additional facility up there. So that's why we're planning to do that. And if anyone watches this video and would like to see more about that, I'd be more happy to kind of show them that data.
Sure. I mean, it sounds fascinating.
And a couple other things we're doing is, a big thing is we're going to institute a community paramedicine program.
I'm so interested in this.
Sure, so I've talked to a number of people, and when we talk about it, they're like, well, what is that? So the word community paramedicine, or you also have heard it, or I've heard it referred to as mobile integrated healthcare, kind of the wave of the future for providing medical care to your community. So we currently have what we've always provided, which is an emergency response in an ambulance. So people call 911 because I need to go to the hospital. We respond with paramedics, we take care of them, we get them to a hospital to definitive care. But as our population is aging, there's a lot of other needs that people have that maybe don't quite require hospitalization, but they require more care than that they really can do for themselves. So what community paramedicine does is sort of bridges that gap, and it really provides a lot that really is directed more towards the aging population. So it can provide a number of things to where if they live by themselves and they don't want to go to assisted living facility, but they need someone to help them a little bit, we can help them with that. So that, kind of go there and make sure that they're taking their medications. And so when we build that relationship and we start providing those services, then we can go inside their home and we can talk to them and help them to say, okay, like we could do a fall prevention inspection. So we could walk through their house with them and say, okay, listen, this is a slip hazard with this rug here. So do you really need the rug? And if they say we don't, well, then we would remove it. If they say they really do need the rug, well, we could provide like double-sided tape.
Exactly.
Most people have the old style showers where you have to step over and get in. Well, we see a lot of people fall down in the bathroom, and the toilet is hard and the counters are hard, so they hit their heads, and a lot of times or they'll break their hip and they fall like that, and then that's the beginning of the end. So we could get in there and kind of help them with certain things, and there's other resources that we could bridge that divide. We're really wanting to provide that stopgap measure that we really see is needed in the community.
No, I think that's a great service to provide, and that it will help everyone, not just the aging population, but those of us that are our age, we have parents that are aging, and we can definitely use help with that.
Yeah, and those community paramedics, they'll be in a car. 70% of our calls are medical related. Sure. So we don't necessarily have a medical supervisor that provides supervision during those times. Okay. So that person that does the community paramedicine, when they're not functioning in that role, they'll also be responding to emergency calls, one with supervision, because that's kind of their specialty area. And then also a lot of times we have to send a fire truck to the call because they got paramedics on it too. But running a big truck like this down the road is very expensive.
Of course.
So to kind of ease the burden of not having to send a big truck on a call, we'll be able to send someone in an SUV type vehicle to assist and provide help there. So always trying to maximize our resources best we can.
Awesome. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, with everything that's going on in the world right now, why a levy?
Yeah, this has been hard. It really has. But it really just boils down to funding and timing. We've been planning this levy for a number of years now because we ran our projections and we saw that we're just simply running out of money. We get money at the beginning and it just kind of runs out, and when the funds are gone, the funds are gone. Right. And so if we don't create additional revenue, then we're unfortunately going to have to cut services, and that's really our only choice. And so it's like, do we not do a levy and just cut services, which that's not fair to the community to cut their services without giving them
course.
the opportunity to provide input too. And they will be drastic cuts, and that's a big step. It's not like you're just, we've tightened our belts as tight as we can, and in order to provide the service that we provide, it just costs a certain amount of money. Sure. So when talking to people, it really, we thought we had every contingency worked out, but we certainly didn't have global pandemic on our list.
Nobody planned on COVID-19.
Sure. So before I decided to recommend to the board to put this on the levy, I did go out to the community and speak to a number of people. And it was interesting because they seemed to come down in two very distinct ways. Okay. One way they would come down is they would say, well, absolutely, your services are more important now than they've ever been. With this going on and everything happening, $11 a month per 100,000, we will find that. The other side is, man, times are really bad right now. You couldn't have picked a worse time for a levy. And I absolutely agree, totally understand. And but when talking with them and saying, I get it, but if we don't, we have to cut services. And like, well, we don't want that at all. Right. So we understand and we get it. So yes, we support that decision. And then other people, they're just kind of like, I just don't know. And so right. it was, it caused for some stressful conversations and some long meetings to really discuss, do we do this? And what we basically came down to is, is there really ever a good time for a levy? Sure. And we kind of said, there's really not. But before we go and start making drastic cuts and closing down a fire station and letting go of a lot of staff, we at least have to give the community the opportunity to tell us that they want to maintain the service and increase it, right. Or they're like, no, we just can't. And then at that point, we work for the community, they give us the direction, and that's the direction we would rather not go, but if the community speaks, we can only provide the services that they're willing to pay for.
Speaking of the cuts, if the levy doesn't pass, what happens?
Yeah, so fortunately, we still have a little bit of the reserve that we've built up through the years. So it's not like if November 3rd cut, then we just immediately start cutting services right away. Right. It will be in a more tiered response. Eventually, we'll just start losing people. And then eventually we'll have to close the fire station because we'll have to make up about $1.2 million in revenue a year. So. Wow. Yeah, so
that really could affect everyone in Springboro and Clearcreek Township.
Yeah,
on our worst days.
For sure. Yeah, we talk a lot about the response time. We really try to get it to be 4 minutes or less. So because we've gotten busier and where we are, and I mentioned the high call volume area, that our response time is just creeping up every year and it's getting longer and longer. If we cut staffing and close down a station, that's going to grow exponentially, and it's going to take us a long time to get to you when you really need us most.
Wow. Wow. If a community member has questions or wants further information about the levy, how's the best way to reach out? Are you going to have public forums? I know that's tough in the Sure. COVID-19 world to, have any meetings or anything about the levy.
Sure. Well, I'm going to hold 3 Zoom meetings.
Oh, great.
So people in the community, and we'll put that information on our Facebook page and our township website, okay. So that people can sign up for those, and I'll send them the link to the Zoom meeting and they'll be able to attend those. And so that'll be great. So we won't have to worry about any COVID issues there.
Excellent.
And then also my contact information is on the website. Okay. Our non-emergency numbers, 748-2766.
Okay.
So they can call here, during normal business hours, and I'll call them back. If someone wants me to come speak to them, I'll come speak to anybody in the community that wants to hear me. So awesome. We'd be more than happy to do that. And we're going to be putting, some information, like we've got this flyer that you and I are holding here.
Right.
So we're going to be putting this on our website. So it's got a bunch of the information broken down. It's front and back. So there'll be a PDF on our website along with some other information kind of outlining, what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it.
Well, Chief, thank you for all that you do for our community, for all that you do, just for everyone.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you for coming and giving me the opportunity to communicate what this levy is about, and hopefully I answered questions that people have.
Well, thank you. Back to you. Thank you, Steve, and thank you for all you and your men and women do to keep our community safe. If you or any of your family members have questions regarding the fire levy, please call the fire department at 937-748-2766.
Going to schools, huh?
We are. A little bit of a lighter subject for our next story. Our senior class got the opportunity to paint their parking spaces this year. First time ever.
Pretty cool.
It is super cool. I would have jumped at the chance when I was a senior to do that. So Joe, Mackenzie, and I went to SHS, took the drone, got to talk to a couple students, and we got to check out some of the best of the best parking spaces. It's pretty neat. Shall we go check it out?
Absolutely.
All right, let's go to SHS. If you've been to the parking lot at Springboro High School recently, you'll notice that things look a little differently, and that is thanks to our class of 2021 seniors. I'm standing here today with Madeline Edwards, and we are standing in her gorgeously painted parking space. Madeline, thanks for joining us on 45066.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me a little bit about this parking space project. This is the first year that the seniors are getting to paint their spaces, correct?
Yeah, our class officers brought up the idea last year and they kept their promise and got approval of it.
Wonderful, wonderful. So what was the process like? I know it was mentioned to me that you had to get approved.
Yes, basically you had to come up with a design, get it approved, and they make a copy, but you had to use specifically exterior latex paint.
Okay.
And basically, let your imagination go.
Awesome. Well, what was your inspiration?
Probably Pinterest.
Okay.
I liked the design and took a lot of work and effort, and that's what made me want to do it more.
Awesome. How long did it take?
I put down the base coat on Friday, probably took an hour, and then on Sunday, it took me probably 6 hours to finish all of it.
Oh my goodness. So lots of tape, lots of paint.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, it is absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
It's one of our favorites in the parking lot.
Thank you.
Tell me, what do you plan to do next year after you leave Springboro High School?
Well, it's kind of up in the air. I really would like to go to University of Toledo and maybe pursue being in pharmacy or toxicology.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, keep up the good work, and thank you for joining us on 45066.
Thank you for having me.
Another of the spaces that really stuck out to us was the space of Grace Ann Shaner. So Grace Ann, thank you for joining us on 45066 today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we love your space. It was a nod to the movie Mean Girls.
It's my favorite.
It's so classic and really just great idea.
Thank you.
We loved it. How long did it take you to do?
Oh my gosh, I came 3 different days.
Okay.
And I stayed about maybe 3 hours the first day, and then 4 hours the second day that I came, and then another 3 hours the next day I came.
Oh my gosh, so labor of love.
Yeah.
Labor of love.
Yeah, it took a lot, but it came out really good and I like it.
It's super cool. I love it. I'm sure you get a lot of compliments on it.
Yes, I do.
Now, was it hard to get it approved through the school?
Not really. I mean, Mr. Berger looked at it and was like, losers. I'll let it pass. And I was like, okay.
It's a movie quote. It's
Right.
legit.
Right.
You're not actually calling anyone a loser.
Right. It's like one of the most iconic lines in the movie.
Truly,
So.
truly iconic. So obviously it took you a long time. Anything you would do differently?
I don't know. Maybe do a little more of like the little squigglies, like how on the burn book they have like squiggles, like
Sure.
they're doodling on it.
Yeah.
So I guess I probably would do a little more of those. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with it.
I agree. I think it's fantastic. Were you excited to be able to paint your space
Oh,
this
I
year?
was so excited. I was bummed when I first came to the high school because I thought I wasn't going to get to do it. But when they came out with you get to paint your parking spot, I was like, perfect.
No, it's very, very cool. One last question, since you're a senior, what do you plan to do next year when you leave us?
Well, I know I'm majoring in psychology and Spanish, so double major.
Good for you.
Thank you. I plan to be a surgeon, so
Wow.
I'm working there, but my dream school would be University of Kentucky.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Well, keep us updated and,
All right.
and keep up the great work.
Thanks.
And thanks for coming on 45066 today.
Thanks for having me.
Back to you. Thanks, Grace Ann and Madeline. We love your parking spaces, and we look forward to seeing what you do in the future as graduates of SHS.
Go Blue. Well,
I hear a drum roll.
time at the dog park, we got to have a Meet Your Neighbor segment. And we absolutely have a beautiful young lady to be with us who's married, has a business in the community, and also is a resident. And that's a nice thing to have. So anyway, Jaclyn Cotton is going to be joining us
Yes.
very soon. Let's go look at that clip. Jaclyn, I'm so glad you spent some time with us on Meet Your Neighbor.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So glad you decided to spend time in Springboro as a resident and a business owner.
Yes.
So why don't you tell the audience a little about yourself?
Okay, so I'm a mom of 3 children, and they're at 3 different schools this year. We have one at SI, we have one at the junior high, and we have one at Dennis Elementary. We love the schools. I'm married, very happily married, 16 years this year.
Congrats.
Thank you, thank you. We live locally here in Springboro, and I have a photography studio in downtown historic Springboro.
So if they want some good photography,
Yes.
what is the phone number that they would call?
They would call 859-912-1138.
There you go. Anyway, the business going good?
It's going really, really well. It's going really well.
So you're not working and being a mom and being a gorgeous wife. What are you doing with your time?
We really like to take trips with and without the kids. We like to spend time at the lake. All of our kids enjoy surfing and wakeboarding and tubing. I really like to go to Pure Barre in Centerville. It's an exercise class that I enjoy. I like to read books, hang out with friends. I've started a women's networking group here in Springboro, so I spend some time with that. And the kids keep us really busy.
You stay busy. You stay busy. What's the ages of your children?
They are 13, 11, and 9. So we have a 8th grader, a 6th grader, and a 4th grader this year, all at different schools.
That's good. That's fantastic. Well, why don't you tell the audience how you got to Springboro? What made you come to Springboro?
So we had been living in northern Kentucky for several years, and my husband actually switched careers, and he came to work for a company up here in Springboro. The company is actually in Miamisburg, and we looked at Centerville, Miamisburg, Springboro, Middletown, and when we drove through downtown Springboro, I said, this is where I want to live.
Oh.
Yes.
That's nice to hear.
It is,
We love
yes.
that.
And I even had the dream of having a studio in downtown Springboro.
There you go.
And a few months later, we moved to Springboro, and I couldn't be happier. It's been 3 years now.
Could you tell us a little bit about your boudoir in the business district?
Absolutely. So my studio is downtown. I'm across the street from Magnolia's, and I specialize in boudoir portraits of women, and a lot of people don't know exactly what that is. Basically, women come to me and they feel like a supermodel for the day. So they come in. My typical client is my age or older, typically a mom or a woman who has done nothing for themselves in years. They come to see me. My hair and makeup artist treats them like a princess for the day.
Oh, wow.
They sip champagne. They have little snacks.
Really?
Uh-huh.
That'd be a nice gift to give somebody.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. A lot of husbands push their wives to do it because they've just driven themselves into the ground taking care of the family and the household. And they come in and the whole day is about them. And my photography studio it's like a spa. It's very relaxing. I give you a robe and fuzzy socks to put on. And
That is spoiled. I like that. I like
it's
that.
great. And I guide them through all the poses. They don't have to think about a thing. It's a wonderful experience.
Cool, cool. You just gave me a good gift. I know what to do with that one. All right. Well, again, thanks so much for sharing some things about your life, and thanks again for being in Springboro. I'm sure we'll cross paths. Have you
Absolutely.
any of our concerts in the park since you've been here?
Yes, we have. Absolutely. We love them.
We love them too, yeah.
They're really fun. That's a nice, wonderful event that Springboro has that a lot of towns don't do.
Well, that is what makes us special. Anyway, way bye. Jaclyn Cotton. Thank you, Jaclyn. We appreciate spending time with you. We appreciate you investing in the community and living in the community at the same time. Well, Carrie, this was part 1.
Yes.
And this was our fall part A edition. We will be coming at you live with another one sooner or later. But because of this being part 1, part 2 is right behind this one, which is A and B. So we're not trying to confuse you. We're just letting you know we're going to have 4 of these by the end of the year.
Yes.
Okay? That being said, we love being back with you. Carrie and I, we enjoy the time. If you have any comments, constructive or whatever, we'd love to hear about it because this show is for you. Anyway, until you see us again in part 2, bye for now.